Hey guys, welcome to the Paint with Lovejoy website. This is the place for first-time and beginners to get comfortable with the painting process. If you have never painted, I am definitely the teacher for you. I will give you permission to play, to create with your hands, and I do consider this adult kindergarten, where you get to make memories with yourself or with loved ones. And you will notice that creative time is something that you will reference for the rest of your life. I do encourage you to send me photos of your paintings. And when you're done with my YouTube videos, please check out my Paint Your Pet course for even more in-depth and kind of my signature class. It's a lot of fun. Before we get started, I want to say thank you for being you. And I also want to give you permission to play today. I'm going to encourage that you take a lot of progress photos, and I do recommend that you turn off your distractions. Put your phone on mute. Please know that mistakes will happen. We call them happy accidents. And I'm going to encourage you to breathe throughout the painting process. Here are your recommended supplies and the colors for this particular video. This video also has a traceable, a line drawing at the beginning, and you can either purchase the traceable and transfer, or you could pause the video and draw it freehand, whichever you feel comfortable doing. Again, progress photos are important. And I'm going to encourage that you pause and play the video as much as you need and rewatch anything that you want. Now let's go ahead and get started painting. All right, guys, so grab your progress photo. We're going to go ahead and get started painting. And we are going to start in the background in the sky. So I'm using the medium flat brush and making a mixture of white plus blue. And again, you can completely change the shade, change the colors here, make this painting your own. So with this light blue, your shade may be a little lighter or darker than mine, totally okay. And again, we are applying our paint kind of thick to cover the texture of the canvas. Now, if you have to mix your color a second or third time, please don't stress about getting the exact same shade every time. You will see where we make it a little lighter or darker as we fill in more space. I do want you to breathe, relax. This is just painting. This is nothing to be stressed out about. I want you to just kind of have fun and forget about the world, the rest of the world while you're painting. Just focus on your painting. And here you can see where I've been adding more white to my mixture, going a little bit lighter as it goes towards the top. And again, I encourage you to play with color variation. You can have one solid blue up there. You could change this into sunset colors, anything you like. And play with the blending, play with your brush pressure, and do everything that you want to your sky now. Take your progress photo, and then we'll move into the next section. So here I'm going to take a little bit of white and teal for the lake. If you don't have teal, you can use a blue and make it a little bit darker than your sky. But if you do have teal, go ahead and you can use that. And same thing, we started with the white, added the teal to get to this light teal mixture. Again, this can be light blue. It could even be purple or a different color. Or I forgot where the lake is, but there's a pink lake. You could switch out this color for pink. So here you can see where I'm adding a little bit more teal to my mixture, going 2 shades darker. And whichever color you're using, you just want to go a little 2 shades darker than what you were using in the middle section. And we are kind of putting this on the perimeter of the lake, giving it a bit of a shadow. And again, if you have to make that color 2 or 3 times, don't stress about the exact same shade every time. As a beginner painter, you're taking in a lot of information each time that you paint, and it does get easier with more practice. And with the tip that just popped on there, remember to breathe. Don't hold your breath. A lot of my beginners do that, and it's just because you're nervous. So here we're going to be grabbing some of that direct teal and placing it in a few areas where the shadow is going to be. And again, this is kind of on the corner. All I want you to do is just observe where I place this and mimic it to the best of your ability. We're not going for an exact reproduction of what I'm doing here. Just use this as a guideline as you go through your process. And it is okay if you paint this more than once. You will see improvement and more comfort in your skills if you paint this a second time. All right, so I had to add some paint to my plate. I think I forgot to put the black on there. So take your progress photo. You're going to clean your brush really good. We're going to move back into the mountain area and get those shades on there. And I went ahead and added fresh white to my plate so that way I didn't get any of the blue mixed in with it. So we are starting light, pulling some white aside. A little bit of black goes a long way. And we are going for about a medium gray color. Again, just like the sky, if your color is lighter or darker than mine, totally okay. Embrace whatever color you make today and embrace where you're at. Play with your color variations. And like I said, just have fun. Get lost in the movement of your brush. And definitely looking back at those progress photos, especially as a first time painter, gives you confidence to go, hey, I did better than I thought. And that's kind of the point of the progress photos. So here you can see where I have that kind of medium gray. Now I'm adding a little bit more white to that mixture and putting it on that bottom section and doing a little bit of blending where that light gray and the darker gray meet. Taking some of that light gray on the other side. Again, does not have to be exact. This is giving the illusion, the impression that we have a mountain landscape on the horizon line. And with impressionistic painting, again, we're just going for a slight illusion. We're not going for every single detail. So here you can see where I added a little bit more black to my mixture, and I'm just going to put those in a few select areas. So feel free to pause the video, observe where I kind of made these abstract shapes, and then mimic that to the best of your ability. If you need to, you can pause the video, take a screenshot, and then you can zoom in a little bit closer if you need to see more details of where I've placed these colors. All right, so grabbing a little bit of the direct black, just going a little bit darker in a few of those areas, and literally all I'm doing is just making little dots. This does not have to be perfect. Again, it's just an impressionistic painting. So now taking a little bit of white, giving a little hint that we've got some snow on these mountains. Again, does not have to be exact, and it is just an impression. And this is one of those things that as an impressionistic painting, it looks better from further away. So don't be afraid to get out of your chair, look at your painting from across the room. Here we're going to be moving into green and yellow, getting the base of our ground on. And I did start with the yellow and add the green. My paint is kind of transparent because I am using student grade paint. So if your paint is transparent as well, feel free to apply your paint thicker or in a couple of layers. So once you do one layer, let it dry and do another layer. And with the layering effect and even applying a little bit thicker, it just gives you a bit more of an opaque coverage. Um, and it's just one of the things that you have to do with student grade paint. It's nice, affordable paint, but sometimes you just have to do a couple of layers. And here, even as I'm mixing the color 2 or 3 times, if it's slightly different, just kind of embrace that and know that nothing really is a solid uniform color. Here I grabbed some of that direct green, slapped it on there. I want you to play with your brush pressure. Again, it's just student grade paint, so sometimes you see your brush strokes a little bit more like you do in mine, and that's where the second and third layer come in handy because you can get rid of some of those brush strokes with the additional layers. Again, play with your pressure of your brush, play with the mark making. Excuse me. This is actually called wet on wet blending, to where the background's wet and then we're introducing some fresh paint, thicker paint, and just kind of playing with it. This is the one of the really fun therapeutic aspects of the creative process is just playing with the blending and playing with your brush pressure. So here again, using that direct green, filling in that hill or that slight mountain, the direct green, so that way we do have a bit of a contrast from that dark green hill to the kind of lighter yellow-green meadow in front of it. Now do take a progress photo. This is what we call your underpainting. There should be no canvas space left. And we're going to go ahead and start putting a few second layers on there. These are optional. And I'm going back to the white and the teal to give a little bit more, little bit better coverage on this lake. So whatever color you used for your lake, we're going to basically go back and just kind of recreate that process. Starting with the light kind of in the middle, and then we'll add a little more teal for darker around the edges. And again, already you can see how much better coverage it is and how much more opaque coverage we have with the second layer. Here I grabbed a little bit darker teal for those edges. Again, adjust for what you need. If you happen to lose the color, you just go back in with that same color or a little bit darker. Here I'm grabbing that direct white, getting a bit of a highlight, and doing that wet on wet blending directly on the canvas. Again, feel free to look at your painting from across the room, assess it, and then come back and add what you need. All right, so grabbing just a little bit of that direct teal, putting that shadow back in there on the edge where the water and the meadow meet, using light pressure, and then just kind of blending where that darker teal and the lighter teal meet. Go ahead, take your progress photo. I want you to let this fully dry, take a break, stretch your legs, walk around. I'm going to talk a little bit about my Paint Your Pet class in a moment, and then you'll come back to your painting. You can forward this little ad that I'm going to do if you like to just jump right back into painting. So when you're done with this and feeling more comfortable, please check out my Paint Your Pet class. It's amazing to paint what you love. And if you've never painted before, I am a perfect teacher for you. Check out these students. I've been teaching this for 15 years, and I love seeing the smiles and the final portraits from all of my students. And everybody on here was a first-time and beginner painter. I offer this class in person and online. All my steps for online and in person are very easy and logical to follow. You can paint your pet or favorite animal. You just can't paint a human in my class, but you can paint an animal or your pets. Again, just look at what an awesome job these people did. So proud of my students. And again, when you paint something that you love, you impress your pet and you impress yourself. So check out Paint Your Pet course and check out the discount code. Any questions, feel free to email me. And let's go ahead and jump back into today's painting. Definitely look at your painting from across the room, and then we're going to come back in and add more. So I am using the pointy brush. I've got green paint, and we're going to go ahead and start putting some of our foliage, our trees in here. So using light pressure with the pointy brush, I'm putting the places, these vertical lines where my trees are. So we're imagining that this is the tree trunks. And I don't have to take it all the way down to the horizon line because we'll do that with the foliage. So literally I'm just kind of focusing on the tops of the trees, placing all my trees on there, and then we'll come back and do a little bit of pointillism by adding our dots for the foliage. A few of those trees, I did bring the base all the way down to that lake. You can place your trees wherever you like, and you can add as many or as few trees as you want. And some of my students have suggested that watch the full tree process first, and then rewind the video and go back and follow along and paint. So that way you can kind of see my method and then kind of plan it out for your painting if you don't want as many trees. So here I'm still using the pointy brush, making a bunch of little dots, starting at the top of that line, the top of the tree, and going, just kind of doing little taps, little dots. Again, this is called pointillism, but starting to where it's at the top of these trees, it stays pretty close to the line. And then as I get towards the horizon line, towards the bottom of the tree, then it's going to get a little bit wider. So again, watch the whole thing through, see how I do the trees, and then rewind the video, and then follow along when you're ready to start yours. And it does feel kind of weird in the beginning. You're like, these are just some weird random dots. Get a couple of your full trees completely done, and then look at your painting from a distance And again, because this is an impressionistic painting, just an illusion of a landscape, when you look at the painting from a distance, you're like, oh, of course that's a row of trees. Where right now, it may not feel like a row of trees while you're painting. You're doing great. Pause the video as much as you need to. Observe the shapes and the placement that I am putting these. And again, if you need a closer look, pause the video, snap a screenshot, and then zoom in a little bit closer. If you're finding that you're kind of shaky, it may mean that you're holding your breath. So a lot of times I encourage my students to exhale as you touch the brush to the canvas. That's going to help steady you out and also keep you from getting lightheaded because you're holding your breath. And don't feel bad. Everybody does, everybody holds their breath when they're nervous or when they're doing something for the first time. I still do it even with painting when I get a little bit nervous. So it just means we're human and nothing's wrong with being human. A few things as you are making all of these dots. A little bit of brush maintenance. Sometimes you get a lot of buildup of paint on your brush, and that's going to widen the bristles with all that buildup. So it is okay to completely wipe off the excess paint, maybe fully clean your brush, and then grab the fresh paint and go back to applying. So a lot of times in the painting process, you do have to kind of figure out your own method, and then also realizing when you get into your own method, maybe sometimes you got to clean the brush or adjust. So again, painting's not about being perfect, but it is about just kind of escaping the world for a little bit, creating something with your hands, and just having fun. There's no right or wrong way to do this. The only way to fail at painting is to not paint at all. So the fact that you're going through this process, you're already successful no matter what your painting looks like in the end. The process of painting sometimes is more important than the outcome, especially for my first time painters. Um, if you are this is your first time painting, just know that it gets easier and you get more comfortable with your tools with practice. You're also learning to look at things in a new way as a first time painter, so be kind to yourself. The fact that you showed up and either watching the video or following along and painting, that already makes you successful. And I like painting because I do forget about the rest of the world while I am painting. So I try to paint as much as possible. All right, that's a pretty good row of trees coming along. I like it. If you do want to add some other shades of green, you can. Now we're going to go in with a little bit of green and black, going a little bit darker, and just going to add some shadow values there. Most of those shadow values would be kind of towards the bottom. They don't have to be exact or follow a specific formula. But if you think about if you're looking at a forest, you'll see some dark spaces, some lighter spaces, and maybe even some spaces where the light is coming through. And that's all we're doing with this pointillistic method is just adding the illusion of depth. As you paint, you are actually a magician. You are creating this 3D landscape on a flat 2D surface. So that makes you a magician. All right. Trust your instincts here. If you're inclined to add more of the darker spaces or even go back into the green paint, trust your instincts while you're painting. Your instincts are guiding you in the direction you need to go. All right, looking good. Remember to breathe. Um, and also permission, you don't have to finish this in one sitting. So here we're actually did a little bit of the dark green. We're putting some illusion of rocks or some illusion of depth around that lake. Again, you can just kind of pause the video and mimic the placement where I put these as well as add your own. So I do recommend a progress photo. Tomorrow, I want you to flip through all your progress photos and go, wow, I did really good. All right, so go back to that green and black mixture. I did switch back to the flat brush. You can still use your pointy brush if you want, but getting some of the darker spaces on this meadow. Um, and where I'm at right now, this is called the foreground. This is the closest part of the painting to the viewer. So we're going to go a little more high contrast here. That's why I'm doing the green and the black mixture. Also doing a second layer on that first, on top of that first layer. And I do recommend, especially for this part, go ahead and paint a little messy. Slap your paint on there, slap the brush on the canvas. I tell a lot of my students, if you have some frustrations, take it out on the canvas. It's kind of the point of painting sometimes. So here I'm actually grabbing that direct green, filling in the spaces, overlapping that green and black mixture, also having the spaces for the green. And this is giving us a nice contrast for when we put the flowers on top of it. So here you can see I grabbed the direct yellow. And because the paint is so wet and so dark, you can see how quickly that yellow gets eaten up. So grab some yellow, maybe make 2 brush strokes on there. It's going to mix a little bit. Grab some more yellow, make a couple more brush strokes. We are imagining that these are blades of grass in our foreground on our meadow. So take a progress photo. We're going to be moving into some flowers. So I'm taking white with a tiny amount of red, making a super light pink, and still using the flat brush. And again, making just dots. We're using the kind of the sideways width of the brush. And these are going to be kind of, I actually don't even know what type of flowers we were referencing for this one. But they're going to be floating kind of above that dark green space, and we're waiting for it to dry a little bit, and then we're going to put some on top of that dark green space. So these are just little blobs, little dots. Some of them are next to each other, some of them overlap. But again, it's just an illusion that we are hanging out next to the flowers in this meadow and lake and forest landscape. Also notice that as I'm placing them on top of the darker space, because the paint's still wet, I'm just kind of making my mark and then grabbing more paint. I am applying this pretty thick. You also have permission if you want to do purple or blue or different colored flowers. If you want to do yellow flowers, by all means, feel free to switch it out or do a whole kaleidoscope of flowers. You can have all the shades in there. Pinks, reds, yellows, greens, whatever you like. Now add a little bit more red to your mixture, making your pink 1 or 2 shades darker. Some of these will overlap, but again, still just kind of making little dots or little blobs next to these flowers, giving the illusion of depth, the impression of depth. All right, and again, if you're nervous or you're shaky, exhale as you touch the brush to the canvas. Again, look at your canvas from a distance and go, you know what, maybe I need a few flowers over here. Maybe I need something here. Maybe I need a bird in the sky. But again, trust those instincts and add what you want. We're going to do one last color on here with the direct red, just give you one more pop of a darker color with the medium and the light pink. All right. This does take us into the home stretch of today's painting. Like I said earlier, add anything extra that you may want. Please send me photos. Here, I forgot about the white. Just like the darker red, adding a few spots of the white to give a pop of color. There we go. So again, great job today. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to hang with me and get creative. Please don't wait too long for your next painting, especially my first timers. You get better and better with more practice. So try to do another painting next week. I generally recommend trying to do a painting at least once a month. Um, Please send me photos or tag me on social media. I love seeing your work. And then when you feel confident enough and ready to take it to the next level, check out my Paint Your Pet course. You will do better at that than you think you're capable of. So until next time, cheers.